Welcome to Murder in the Air Mystery Theater. I'm your host, Laurie Fagen. In this podcast series, I'll interview authors who will then read their mystery, suspense, or thriller short stories or a chapter from their published books. In addition, sprinkled throughout the coming weeks, the podcast will feature radio theater-style sections from the audiobooks for my 3 crime fiction novels. There will be prizes too, so stick around to the end to find out how to enter. We're back with the continuing story of L.N. Pane, P.I. from the audiobook of my 2nd crime fiction novel, Dead Air. Welcome to Behind the Mic Mysteries. I'm your host, Laurie Fagen, and author of 3 crime fiction novels in this series called Fade Out, Dead Air, and Bleeder. You've landed on the compilation of the radio theater-style mystery podcast for my audiobook for Dead Air called L.N. Pane, P.I. It's a noir-type story set in the 40s about a female private investigator who helps a client figure out who is trying to kill him. Enjoy L.N. Pane, P.I. Our private detective, L.N. Pane, thinks she's closed the case of the poisoned husband, but she finds out there's murder on someone else's mind, too. Light footsteps tap up the wooden stairs and approach the office door. A hesitation, then a rapping on the glass, soft but urgent. "Come in," I say. The door swings open, and a tiny gal who used to be a looker shuffles in, wearing a plain house dress, practical shoes, and a hat with a veil. She's hunched over, holding her stomach with one hand, carrying a pocketbook with the other. It's none other than Mrs. DePalma. Ma'am, please have a seat."
"It's all right, dear."
She eases down into the chair and sighs, closing her eyes briefly.
"I know who you are."
"You do?" It's been a month since I seen her at her house and wrapped up the case with her hubby.
"Of course. I know you were spying on me to see if I was poisoning my husband."
"What in Sam Hill is going on? I can tell I'm behind the 8 ball here." She continues.
"I saw my husband's checkbook."
"Oh." I pull myself together and just jump in. "So, were you poisoning him?"
"Now don't be a bunny, dear."
Her green eyes were cool as a mint julep drink on a hot summer's day.
"But now I need your help."
Have I just been conned by a conner? Or did someone just blast me to the moon? I don't understand, Mrs. DePalma. What can I do for you? Why is Mrs. DePalma looking so sickly? And how does she think L.N. Pane, Private Eye, can be of assistance? Find out next time on Murder in the Air Mystery Theater. I'm Lauren Price. Thanks for listening. On the previous Murder in the Air Mystery Theater, Mr. DePalma's wife pays a visit to L.N. Pane, P.I. and seeks her help. So it appears the tables have been turned. First, Mr. D seems like he's on death's door, and now Mrs. D is almost there too. "Mrs. D, you don't look so good. You better tell me what's going on." I sit at my desk and run my hand down my leg, making sure my .41 caliber is handy, just in case.
"Well, dear, I don't imagine private investigators are usually in the business of giving advice of the heart, but I do appreciate what you told my husband. For 2 weeks, he brought me flowers, took me out to dinner, went for drives, and treated me like a queen."
The poor lonely broad left alone at home every day and practically every night. Ain't that what she wanted? Don't take me for no rube here. What's the problem?
"Can't you tell? I started to feel sick to my stomach and began getting these horrible headaches. I think my husband's trying to kill me."
Now I think maybe she's stringing me along, but she definitely looks sick. So, how do you suppose your husband is trying to off you?
I think it's poison.
I smell a rat.
Yeah, he's a rat, all right. A rat who's been playing with a mouse in his office.
The DePalma case seems far from over, as Mrs. DePalma believes she is now being drugged and cheated on. There's a lot more on Murder in the Air Mystery Theater next time. I'm Lauren Price. Good night. Last time on Murder in the Air Mystery Theater, L.N. Payne, P.I., is told by Mrs. DePalma she believes her husband is trying to poison her because she suspects he's fooling around. Mrs. D gives me the address of her husband's business and a couple of C's, this time in cash. After she shuffles out of my digs, I head downtown and sit at the window of a diner across the street from DePalma's office. DePalma & Co. is in a seedy section of the city with other businesses all around. I watch the front door for a while and see a steady stream of hombres going in and out. I finally figure out most of them are carrying in a brown paper bag filled with something, but when they exit, their hands are empty. So what's DePalma running here? Is he a Shylock? Those bags full of juice on the loan shark's loan? I reckon I'll have a little chat with one of the mugs, a skinny gent in a cheap suit and fedora, who nervously glances both ways as he walks out of DePalma's door and onto the sidewalk. I follow him for about a block and make my move. Say, you got a minute? That D&Co down the street, a first-rate outfit?
Sure. Look, lady, I got a scoot.
I can tell he's clamming up on me. Oh, you don't have to sweat it. I know the score. I give him a wink, and he settles down. So, Mr. D, he's quite a looker. I've been thinking about doing some business with him, but I was just wondering if there was any more on the side, if you know what I mean. He gets my drift and pulls me closer to the brick wall along the pavement.
You may be out of luck on this one. I know he has a little lady at home, but he's also fooling around with his secretary, a little chippy who's quite a dish.
My voice comes in over the Murder in the Air theme music. The plot thickens as our private detective's nose indeed sniffs out a rat. Be back here next time to find out how she sets a snare for the scallywag on Murder in the Air Mystery Theater. I'm Lauren Price. Good night. In this episode of L.N. Payne, P.I., for the inside story, our private investigator talks to one of the men who's borrowing money from DePalma and Company and finds out Mr. DePalma is most likely cheating on his wife. The mug paying off his loan gives me the up and down outside DePalma's office.
But what does a dame like you want with the likes of him? I can show you a good time.
He flashes me a wink. Oh, I got nothing against gents like you. I finger the red hanky in his breast pocket and get a whiff of his Old Spice aftershave. But I figure if I gotta pay him some juice, I might be able to take some out in trade.
Yeah, I get your drift.
I can tell he's disappointed, but he glances around to see if anyone's listening.
I do know that his little chickie skates around plenty.
Oh, yeah? So's maybe I got a shot after all. I take his necktie and pull him close. But let's just keep this between the two of us. Savvy?
Sure.
He looks at me with hungry eyes.
But if you don't get any action there, give me a jingle.
He pulls out a white card and slips it to me, his hand brushing mine for a few extra seconds. Thanks, Mr. I look at the card. Barone. Fine name, Joe Barone. Might see you around. I slip the card into my brassiere. You never know when we may be able to do a little business. Is the loan shark subordinate soliciting sex on the side? Stay tuned when the next Murder in the Air Mystery Theater podcast continues. I'm Lauren Price. Thanks for listening. Welcome back to this podcast of L.N. Pane, P.I. on Murder in the Air Mystery Theater. I'm Lauren Price. Two people are presumably being poisoned, one for being unloved, one for being loved too much. So the con artist was conning his wife after all, and now she's on to him. If he thinks he can con me too, he's got another thing coming. I set up shop in the same eatery the next day, keeping my eye on the front of DePalma's office door. Another string of gents go in with a brown bag, only to leave empty-handed. Then at about noon, I see a pretty young thing open the door from the inside. She's got long platinum hair, wearing a very tight skirt that's also way too short, and showing a lot of cleavage from a pink blouse. She looks up and down the sidewalk both ways, puts a close sign on the doorknob, and goes back in. So, are Mr. D and his blonde bimbo having lunch, or a little lunchtime action? I don't see any food delivery, so I gotta prove she ain't simply taking dictation. Trouble is, I can't just waltz into his office. But maybe Mr. Barone can. Be back here next time to find out how L.N. Pane, P.I. sets a snare for the scallywag on Murder in the Air Mystery Theater. I'm Lauren Price. Good night. I spend a few minutes proofing and editing the script, realizing it's all my voice and that of L.N. Pane. I fix a cup of hot tea and record this episode myself, knowing the next one will have Ron in it as Joe Barone. That will give him something to look forward to. The part of Mr. DePalma was portrayed by D.W. Thomas. The part of Mrs. DePalma was played by Julie Lee. And I read the part of narrator Lauren Price and L.N. Pane, P.I. Join us next time on episode number 15, when author Pat Spencer will be with us to talk about and read from her thriller novel, Story of a Stolen Girl. Then on episode number 16, the season 1 finale of Murder in the Air Mystery Theater, when you'll hear the thrilling conclusion of L.N. Pane, P.I. from my dead air crime fiction mystery novel. If you are listening on the podcast platform of your choice, please subscribe and leave a review or provide us with some feedback. If you're on YouTube at Read Laurie Fagen, please subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and click on the bell to be notified when a new episode has been released. And for more freebies, check out our Patreon page at Murder in the Air Mystery Theater. Remember I mentioned prizes? At the end of each of these Murder in the Air podcasts, we'll have a drawing for a prize from those who follow Read Laurie Fagen on Facebook or Instagram, and in the comment, write murder to be entered in a drawing. We'll have drawings for free ebooks, chances to win your name in a novel, and other fun items. So go to Facebook or Instagram, follow Read Laurie Fagen, and write murder in the comment. For more information, you can visit readlauriefagen.com. Thanks so much for listening, and come back again for more Murder in the Air.